Hey Tatiana, how's it going?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for your time. How are you today?
I am doing good. It's nice outside. It's spring, although I'm starting to get my allergies. But other than that, it's been, like a roller coaster,
Yeah,
but good.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
at least we're getting some nice weather, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited to talk to you today. Maybe we can just start with a quick intro about you and your background and the company that you own right now, and then we can go from there.
Sure. So I'm Tatiana Soldatova. I started Syllable with my business partner, Danny Tsang. So he's an architect. I'm an interior designer. So our company is, integrated interiors and architecture all together. Very young team. We have 11 people right now and based out of Liberty. And the kind of work that we do is offices, retail spaces, and also doing like condominium corridor renovations and amenity spaces.
Hmm.
So quite a bit of interior work, and there's also a little bit of development work that we've done as well. So in terms of my background, I graduated from Humber in 2010 during the recession, fun times. And yeah, I got to work at a large architectural firm doing schools and community centers. So that was really interesting, kind of picking finishes that last a long time and that are very affordable, but also have like some sort of timelessness to it. So I did that. Then I left and did my master's at Parsons. So it was in strategic design and management, where I learned a lot about, how startups operate, new economy, just being innovative, kind of pivoting constantly, prototyping, that kind of
Very
concept.
cool.
And yeah, so then I ended up getting a job at Idea Tour. So I was kind of, a lot of my friends and peers were saying, what are you doing? Because I left the interior design world, literally, and did consulting for three
Oh,
and a half
cool.
years, which was really interesting to learn. Client management, innovation itself is like a black box that you try to figure out. And I got to work with really amazing people. And yeah, while I was there, I, started Syllable with Danny on the side. And after, doing that for a couple of years, decided to take the plunge. And we've been doing this now 3 years full time here. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Um, yeah, so you're kind of in an interesting position right now since you're running a small business and also targeting an industry that's obviously probably been affected. So like how are things going? What have you kind of been seeing happening in your world?
Yeah. I mean, for us, it was at the beginning, it felt like all the projects were kind of ongoing. And then slowly, week by week, project got paused. So we had 48 projects live. And over the last, 6 weeks, we're down to 9.
Wow.
So a lot of projects just, they have stopped because if you're a landlord and, you have tenants who are not paying rent or not, whatnot from COVID, they were trying to keep a lot of those funds in. And then a
Hmm.
lot of our new projects also that we're in the process of getting and starting have paused because no one's signing a lease right now, which I completely understand.
Yeah.
And for us, yeah, we definitely, I finally kind of released what the team is doing or whatnot, and work transparent with what's happening, and we're just cutting people's hours and going from there. So
Yeah.
that's on the business side.
And like, so a lot of the projects have stopped, and are your focus is mainly on what kind of interior, like what industries? Is it typically like commercial?
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
all commercial. So it's corporate and retail,
Okay.
and also doing like condominium lobbies and corridors. So those are all commercial spaces. So we don't really do any like
Uh,
houses or anything.
okay.
Yeah.
And I guess, yeah, you're also kind of in this position. I've talked to a few companies that are kind of in this position as well, where like the industry is still there. It's just kind of on pause.
Yeah, it is on pause. We have friends who are in real estate, and 98% of their business has been just obliterated.
Yeah.
So it's hard, and you wouldn't. Everything's so interconnected. Everything's a system. So if one system's affected, then we're like in the trickle down effect. And I think for us, it's been so hard to if our clients doesn't pay, then we can't pay our consultants, and then we're trying to kind of maintain that to keep the cash flow going.
Hmm.
And one of our biggest things too is just keeping all our staff on
Yeah.
as much as possible. Like it's, the government is helping, which is great, but unfortunately we don't qualify for the
Yeah.
75% wage subsidy. So got to figure it out. That's what happens when you grow.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Good and bad.
Yeah.
Um, so how do you kind of see things changing once we go back to normal, however long that phased approach is?
Yeah, I mean, I know there's so much content out there about, things going back to normal or what's going to happen. And I feel like things are going to get back to normal. Like we
Yeah.
will just be normal. I think maybe some cleaning on more commonly touched surfaces for like building lobbies would have to be more maintained, or maybe we're going to be a little bit more cognizant about listening to the epidemiologists that say, hey, there's a crazy virus coming out, right? Like
Hmm.
nothing that's happening is new per se, and nothing that is happening was not predicted.
Yeah. Yeah,
So we
that's
just,
true.
like I signed. We were growing so much, and I was actually
Mm.
looking to hire people. I have 2 offices right now. So I have 2 empty offices, one that I can't sublease, and the other one that is just empty completely. And I signed the lease when Corona was just breaking out in China. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's not going to get over here. We're going to be fine. No.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Um, but what do you think about like physical spaces? Do you think there'll be, well, I guess the first question is, I mean, your business touches so many different industries, so it's kind of hard to say like, will things change because it's really dependent on the industry. I mean, I kind of see retail maybe having like a phase. Again, who really knows? We're just like totally theorizing here, but retail is an interesting one because what does retail look like after this? Obviously, we will theoretically get to a point where everything's back to the way it was before Corona, but what does it look like in terms of um, leading up to that? I've been seeing like some shops around us are starting to build in divisions, and I went into a bakery recently, and I was like, wow, this is so weird. Like, is this the way life is going to be for the next however long, year, 2 years, like building in funnels to kind of funnel people to the till within a space from each other, and walls and everything right now is very like DIY. So it's kind of like apocalyptic. It's like, whatever material people are using, just like attaching it in whatever way they can. Like, do you think that that's going to be a design change in the future?
Um, I think depending on how close some of the things are. So for example, we're looking at, in an office, you have a carpet, and you can do carpet designs that are, 6 feet apart. So you can
Hmm.
kind of really demarcate visually of like, okay, this is 2 meters. So this is how far we should be spaced. I think those would be helpful. But there's a lot of talk right now of a lot of the product manufacturers, especially for systems furnitures, are putting some content out, such as buy some panels and barricade this and get a sneeze guard, and all these things. And I'm personally looking at it and I'm thinking we're moving backwards, right?
Hmm.
We had the walled up cubicle workspace, and it didn't work, right? It created almost like a jail type feeling, and it wasn't comfortable. People, you can't collaborate. And I think now they're kind of like reinventing that again. And I just feel like, one, as a business owner, sorry, that's my
Oh, that's no
dog. As
problem.
a business owner, I'm not going to be spending money on panels right now. I'm
Yeah.
trying to keep my staff paid. Why would I invest in, panels that cost $500-600 a piece? Right.
Yeah.
So we're doing an analysis of, some of the suggestions that are coming out are not realistic. Is some other technologies that are coming out, like nanotechnology, that can, if you put it onto surfaces like handles and whatnot, and it will actually sanitize itself over like a half an hour.
Hmm.
But those surfaces still need to be wiped, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what happens if you get super bugs, the bugs that can, the viruses that can mutate and actually withstand that stuff. But in terms of how, if I'm looking at retail, I think you can see now already what's happened is all the cashiers have that, bulletproof,
Yeah.
clear visor on, which I think that's probably going to stay. I don't see why that would go away. And then also for offices, I think I'm recommending that we should do shift work. So keep everything as is, just have alternate people come in so that you're spaced apart. But I think after a while that will get back to normal. And I
Yeah.
think what needs to happen is that there should be a response from the government. If there's a serious outbreak, you just react faster.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. Um, Yeah, I've been heard shift work seems to be something that's probably going to be implemented fairly soon. And I mean, I was just having a conversation earlier today, and one Canadian place, I think that's the address for that big office tower. There's 20,000 people in that office tower. So a lot of these companies that have thousands of people are starting to think like, okay, well, let's keep senior leadership and kind of rotate in and out staff. But I mean, it's kind of like an interesting. I feel like it's an interesting effect on your business because now you potentially are designing. Like I would assume that projects that are on hold right now would continue as normal, but any new projects, I wonder whether people are going to start thinking about designing for that kind of work environment, and that would potentially mean less square footage, more work from home. Um, and just designing a space that's a little bit more of like a collaboration center versus office space. Um,
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's been funny because some people have been asking, what are clients wanting right now? And we had even the projects right now that we are in midst of designing, nothing has come up about, can you put some, antiviral,
yeah,
extra barriers or whatnot into it? None of that has happened. I actually had funny conversations where people say, do we really need an office anymore?
yeah, yeah.
Like, do we even read it?
That's an interesting discussion too. Yeah,
Do we need an office space? And I think people are social creatures, and I don't think there is a way to really mimic the water cooler talk other than doing it in person, right?
yeah.
That's how you get the best ideas. That's how innovation happens. That's how companies and people, the information flow happens, right? It's
Hmm.
like those informal conversations where you can get clarification on something. And I think in offices things might be more spaced apart, but even then, like when you think about commercial design, you think about the building code, things are already spaced,
Yeah,
4 feet, right? For clearance, if you want to, for fire code, 6 feet, right? So it's like you already have those things preset. So, and I think having a large team, yeah, I think you need a lot more automation. Like our team's only 11. It's easy for one person to go and clean up once in a while and just tidy things up, right?
yeah.
And I actually was doing that when I was sick. So like before all this stuff, right? You
Yeah.
just kind of wipe some surfaces that are commonly touched. But I think for larger companies, they probably have to outsource additional cleaning. And, there's some other systems that my one close contact was talking about, was having like occupancy sensors on all desks. And then if somebody uses it, and they leave, and then it gets flagged for the cleaning person to come and clean it. So you have to it's
Interesting.
like a reserve system
Yeah,
for your
that's
desk.
cool.
But that only works for a big company. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I don't think
totally.
I wouldn't invest in that because I think
Yeah.
it just doesn't make any sense for my scale. But I think for larger companies for sure.
Hmm.
So, but maybe it's like a protocol, like, okay, virus hitting, this is switch gears,
Yeah.
rather than maintain this all the time. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I
Yeah.
wonder, like, it's probably a pretty interesting space to be in, discussing home setups too, because, for the immediate future, if organizations with thousands of employees are operating at like a 25% occupancy of their office, um, what happens to the home office? What happens to the home environment? And square footage is so small here in Toronto. So it's like, how do you efficiently design and build a workspace? Do organizations get involved? Do they outsource it? Like, there's so many interesting ideas there as well, and how that can
Yeah.
all change.
I think condos are horribly designed.
They are pretty bad.
They're so bad. They are just horrendous.
Sometimes
And
horribly built too.
oh yeah. Which, there's speed to them, but
Yeah.
it's hilarious because, our team now, I had, people reach out to me saying, hey, my back is hurting. Can I come steal an office chair? And I'm like, yeah, go ahead. Or, hey, can I get a second screen again? So half of the office right now has been looted of office chairs and screens and computers.
Yeah.
But, just for people's ergonomics sake.
Oh, totally.
But,
I feel that pain.
Yeah, but like I look at my space, right? Like whenever I was looking at my condo, to me, I never looked at it as a home. it wasn't somewhere where it was like cozy, I could chill and relax. It was more of a space that I kind of called it my expensive storage locker with my stuff in it. That's really all that it was. I was never home. I just slept there.
Yeah.
Even cooking, I only cook like, 2 times a week of that. I was always out. So it's been very interesting, being in my space for so long. I've actually, when I moved into my apartment last June, I did some, like, I obviously tweaked some things in my apartment, but there's some areas that I just left unfinished. Like, I want to put wallpaper in my bedroom. Didn't do that. I wanted to finish my patio. Didn't do that. Well, Corona, thank you. I've now completed all those things.
Yeah. That's so funny.
But I don't have a den. I don't have, I just have a 1 bedroom, because why would I
Yeah.
need more? I wasn't home.
Yeah.
So I have a kitchen island that I get my work done at, but my back starts hurting and it gets uncomfortable. So I'm lucky that I run a company that I can go to an empty office and kind of escape and be productive here. But yeah, condos are not designed to be lived in that prolonged. Like, it just really isn't at all.
Yeah.
Right. And it'll be interesting what would happen if, people actually making them a little bit bigger or more functional.
Yeah. Or even just like, as a person living in the space, if you knew when you moved in, like, I mean, I'm sure everyone's in the same boat. I've had the same experience where, like, okay, I'm working from home now all the time. I don't really have anywhere great to work in this space because I've never had to be working from here for this long. So it's like,
Yeah. Or if you have a partner, or for example, my bedroom doors are glass because that's by code now as a window.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
Because so the laws get passed where, that, things augment. I can walk into a condo and know when that was built. But same with houses. But like, it's just so interesting how the live work concept is kind of coming in. And, we were working on those concepts a couple of years ago. So, we've designed our own, like, kind of mini projects of what would a live work house look like. And if you think of, 2-3 story space where lower area is the working zone, and then you work, have a more of like common kitchen area on top, and then you have your sleeping quarters on top. So, really great idea, but it's also like the zoning. You can't have a working area in a residential unit. So I think the city would have to kind of be a little bit more lenient.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that. Oh yeah. It would be so cool if, it would just be so interesting if this became a semi-permanent, in a world where this became semi-permanent, where, within the largest organizations, you had 50% of your workforce always at home. That would obviously trickle down a little bit to smaller organizations, but smaller organizations are just more flexible. Like, we're super flexible as well. What does that world look like? Because it'll just be so interesting. There's so many different products that would be developed to maximize space. There's some products that we were thinking of even for maximizing our office space, which are like those phone booths. And I'm sure you probably have seen them for.
Oh yeah. They range from 5,000 to like 15.
Yeah, they're crazy.
I love them.
We didn't get one. And it's 5,000 to 15,000 US. But like, something like that could be manufactured within Canada by a Canadian company, and it could take many different forms. You could have something that's portable for your backyard. It's kind of like a self-contained shed that's more of an office space. There's just so many interesting innovations that would happen if we kind of like move to the semi-permanent remote work live scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I love Danish design and, looking at what's happening in Europe, because they are so smart at having furniture that transforms. I love seeing, a wall unit, a millwork unit that converts into a bed, or then it also converts into a bedroom set. Those are amazing, but they cost you 20 grand.
Wow.
Which is, I mean, you can get the cheaper models for like 10, 11, but it just doesn't have as many bells and whistles.
Yeah.
They do exist. And I think they're really cool. But the thing is like, I wish those would be standards in condos. You know what I mean? You wish that's you can get an upgrade millwork piece where you could do that. There's so many little nooks and crannies. You can fit so much content into one of those wall units.
Totally. Even desks, you really only need a surface. and
Yeah.
it could potentially just fold out.
And it's so funny. I grew up in Russia and I came here when I was 9 years old. And I remember in our living room, and this was like USSR, we had a millwork. We had a full millwork wall in our living room. And there was, one piece that kind of just drops down, and that turned into my mom's office, like her desk.
Oh, what? That's cool.
And it was really cool. Yeah. And it was just
Yeah.
like so simple, so basic, but everything was stored away and everything was in this millwork unit. And I wish there was more of those kind of things here in North America.
Yeah.
But it's so expensive, to do custom millwork it's not cheap. It's not like affordable for everyday person. I mean, IKEA does try to do things like that, but even then, it adds up really quickly.
Yeah. There's tons of barriers to that type of work. But I mean, at the very least, I think people are starting to, at minimum, change the way they think about their spaces, which is probably step one. And however long these changes last can start to create some really interesting habits. And I think it'll just be interesting to see what happens with these large organizations, because I know that they're going to probably start out on like a rotating schedule for a while. And it's just like, how do we, until there's a vaccine, how do you make sure that this doesn't happen again? And how long is that even going to take?
Well, I think for this not to happen again, we'd have to go and, stop deforestation, in all the regions in the world where you're cutting back into, natural habitats and where there's bats.
Yeah.
So stop doing that. We would have to take, listen to the people who are, creating the vaccine, saying, hey, this is going to be bad. Because I think in January we were not doing that whatsoever.
Yeah.
I think countries need to lock down quicker and have really good contact tracing.
Yeah. And like you said, this is just one virus. Like, who knows what could happen? It could totally happen with something completely unrelated, right?
Yeah. I had an interesting conversation about vaccines, and people saying, oh, things will get back to normal once there's a vaccine. And I thought, what about the people that don't want to get vaccinated? Yeah. I'm not one of them, but
me neither, but I totally get that. That's a huge challenge.
They're out there.
Oh yeah. Very prominent. Do you guys do any like huge public spaces like airports?
No, oh my God, no. Jeez. That's next level. Airports and hospitals, those projects take, they take 5 to 10 years to build.
Yeah.
I've only had the company for 6 years, so I'm not there yet. And you need huge teams for that. Yeah. So, I mean, I did have experience doing schools and community centers before. And, a lot of those spaces are public, they're public funds. Mm-hmm. So the question is the government going to now fund additional money to have all these extra cleaning protocols, or what are they going to implement? Because you think about hospital design, there are antimicrobial fabrics, there are, vinyls that withstand bleach. So there's already been some thought about bacteria and control, right? Mm-hmm. So you take the methodologies of those spaces and implement them, in the normal world, if you want to call, for example, office spaces or buildings, that's extra cost.
Yeah.
Right?
Huge extra cost.
Yeah. You think about fabric that's antimicrobial to fabric that's just normal. There's a big upgrade to it. So the question is, who's going to eat that cost?
Yeah.
And, even if you think about, the technology like nanotechnology, if you have that in airports, well, that technology does wear out. So who maintains it? There's a lot of maintenance to those things. So that are not really quite figured out. Even the nanotechnology takes 30 minutes for it to kill the bug.
Yeah. It's wild. Do you think those spaces are going to change from a design perspective? Or you think we're just going to try and maintain and
I think it's going to be more a social habit that needs to be built out, right? I think it's changing the way that we interact. So not so many handshakes, maybe when, in the wintertime, who knows? But, I also look at all of these like bugs and viruses and how is the environment going to change. And I feel, you look back to the last pandemic that was really bad. And from like 1918, And, you look at those, you look at those designs and have anything changed? No, everyone still has a house. Everyone still has an office. If anything, offices aren't factories.
Good point, yeah.
There's more sunlight, right? So sunlight is a natural killer of bacteria. So maybe there'll be more promotion for natural light in spaces. But that already exists. There's a lot of accreditations like the WELL accreditation, LEED. So there's already things in motion, but it's not like mandatory by the government. And a lot of the times when you design, unfortunately, bad design is when you just stick to the minimum building code.
Yeah.
That's not good design.
No.
That's like the bare bone. You never want to design to the building code. You always want to go above. And unless that's mandated by the government and put that into the building code, nothing's going to change.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I guess, it would be kind of like a top down change.
Yeah. Like for us
and stuff like that.
Yeah. Like for us, I think about an office space and I wouldn't want to put barriers up. I think that's going backwards to the old cubicles. I wouldn't want to do that. So I would say, okay, well, what do you need? Ask the team, what do you need to feel safe in this environment? Get that knowledge and then implement it. So if somebody wants to wear a mask, cool, let's all wear a mask, or let's, sanitize our own spaces and have that autonomy. I think that's or if somebody says, I want to work remotely for this entire time, cool. You do that. So I think choice is important.
Yeah, I think there's going to be definitely going to be a greater degree of flexibility for organizations. I keep telling this story, but I remember I interviewed an accounting tech firm years ago, and they were running all of their meetings via video, and I had a video call with one of the co-founders, and I was like, the whole time I was like, what is this room that this guy's in? Because it looks like wood paneling behind him, and I was just like sort of distracted by the room, which is maybe not a great point for the story, but so by the end of the call I was like, this is all great, but what room are you in? And he was like, oh, I'm actually in an RV. Like my family are just traveling up the Nova Scotia coast. And he was still working 9 to 5 while kind of traveling with his family. So, and at the time I was like, that's awesome. And I still think that's awesome. And I think we're probably a little bit more liberal on that side because we're a small organization and we just have probably a greater degree of flexibility. But I wonder, I hope that all organizations will start to see remote work as not this dirty thing, but this you can be productive and you can kind of balance your work and life at the same time from really anywhere if you have the systems and technology in place.
Yeah, it's been really funny watching. So we use T-sheets for our timekeeping, and now that people are not in the office and you can kind of work whenever. At the end of the day, like I don't care if you work 9 to 5 or if you work from like 4 p.m. till like 2 a.m. I don't care. Whatever, floats your boat. And right now. And it's been actually really funny. You go into T-sheets and you see everyone and there's like, you see breaks and pockets and everyone has like different schedules kind of when they're working, which has been really interesting. But yeah, I came from the world of, I think because I did work at Idea Couture, in innovation, everything was remote. The team was remote. And then I did my master's online as well. So I was already well versed in that kind of mentality. And, even when I go on vacation, I still work. I still bring my laptop and do that, which I know is not healthy, but if I go offline for more than a couple of days, things happen. So, I think it's a hard habit to build. I think, I've had years of training in it, so I know how to do it. I've been able to even hack it by, I work really, really well in coffee shops. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I haven't figured it out, but I literally did my entire master's in Tim Hortons in Liberty Village. I sat there every night for 2 years straight, literally. But I figured out how to hack myself to be productive now I use the Focus app to put like, they send like beta waves and then you can pick it to sound like a coffee shop.
What?
Yeah. And then I make the coffee and I put it beside me. So then now I have like, my nose is smelling the coffee and I'm hearing the coffee shop. So then it imitates the fact that I'm in a coffee shop.
Oh, that's cool.
So I've been able to do like, the Focus app. So I've been able to kind of body hack my way through when I'm working remote. And I try to do that now as well. So
that's really interesting. I wonder if there's any, I mean, if there's no studies going on right now, it would be really great for someone to start doing some studies on I mean, I feel like it's even more relevant, the effect of remote work on people in general, and like how they work, how they feel, how productive the work is. I think there's a lot of power in it. And I really hope that it's something that kind of sticks around, at least more flexibility. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's all a great positive note. And I think we should end on a positive.
Yeah, no, I think that's the only way, is to just, things will get better. You got to have that mentality. And when things get hard, you just got to keep doing a little bit every day. So
Totally. Awesome.
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was great.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, bye.
Bye.